My name is Ken Wells. I'm the CEO of Cherish Our Children Inc. We have a panel tonight of three people that I have enormous respect for. First, let me introduce Brandi and have her talk a little about the program. So Brandi came to us in early December. She is a really experienced educator in the HISD system, had been a teacher, had become a wraparound specialist for those of you who are not familiar with the concept here in the HISD system, that's the person at the school that connects families with necessary services. So she already had the deep connections and the deep understanding. But she brought something else to the program that really has been valuable, and that is she's walked in the shoes of the children that we work with. She's a graduate of Kashmir High School. One of our schools is Key Middle, which feeds into Kashmir. And she grew up, she'll tell you, with a father who was incarcerated. So Brandi, let me just welcome you first to COCI. Describe where we are, but also your assessment of where we are in terms of the progress of the program.
Good evening, everyone, to everyone that I haven't spoken to. Again, my name is Brandi. I asked the kids to call me Miss B because it just feels weird hearing my own name. At any rate, we are like every week is something new. It's something different. We are always faced with different situations, but what we are really and truly is I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We were very nervous that maybe we could not get the kids to be engaged, to want to be a part of this program, because as Connor said earlier, as they are transitioning and learning about themselves during this time, it's like, okay, do I want to be cool? Do I want to be with the cool kids? Do I want to do all of that? So we have been able to have great success and gain a lot of ground at both Key Middle School and Hoffman Middle School. Case in point, the Friday before we were supposed to start at Hoffman, we decided to go up to the school to kind of sign up the kids because the kids had not yet been identified who would be in the program. And we signed up literally 62 kids. They came to us saying, I want to be a part of this program, not knowing anything about it other than a few blanket announcements. Hey, we got this new program starting at gyms. One kid was honest. He said, hey, I just came to sign up for the snacks. But when he found out what it was we were actually doing, he has been consistently coming to every meeting. The things that these kids have shared with us, even at this point, it's astonishing, because in middle school, if any of you have middle school children or have experienced that age of dealing with a child, a student that is preteen, pubescent, it's a lot. But I can see the light. I can see us growing. I can see where we'll be next year, 5 years, 10 years, and that future looks very bright.
So Brandi, one of really the challenge, and all nonprofits are facing this, is how do you deliver the quality program with COVID? And you might talk a little bit about that, but really, what has COVID meant to the kids that you're working with?
At this point, I really think that everybody, kids, teachers, everybody is just over this whole virtual learning situation. I just think they're just like, I want to be around people. Even the kids that don't like people want to be around people. So they're kind of hungry for that engagement and being able to literally, physically converse and have some type of dialogue and interact with people, because we were kind of all thrusted into this virtual reality. And so the kids, they love coming to class. The principal at Key told me today, hey, they were looking for you Tuesday. I know y'all were testing and you couldn't come, but they were upset about that. So we're going to make sure we do everything to make sure you're here every week. So, I think just being able to do something where they are not regulated to a classroom environment or having to focus on academics, but it's a safe space for them to be able to come and talk about their issues, not only talk about their issues, but know that there are other kids that they may know, they may not know, but they all have similarities and, similar situations. So having that support and knowing that you have that at school on your campus means a lot to them. But yeah, just to see me like, hey, Miss B, is what I got this morning. I was like, hey, honey.
So there is a student, a scholar at Key, who we talked to, and what I remember about her was she's in 6th grade, which means that she is now thrown in with a lot of kids she doesn't know as an early adolescent, as a middle schooler. And she just transferred from MC Williams, which means halfway through the semester, and she doesn't know anyone. And everyone's got masks on, and it's such an artificial environment. I mean, what's your sense for how detached our kids are from what would be a normal educational experience for them?
In her situation, and there are a lot of kids that are like her I've seen kids that might live in the Pearland area, but because of this COVID, all of a sudden have to go to school in the Heights or whatever. So it's very unfamiliar to her. And even though she approached the classroom with a lot of trepidation and questions, and who are you? Why am I here? I don't know you. I don't like people. Um, she saw the genuineness behind everyone, because we're there to let them know that we're here for you. So it's like we have to meet them where they are. And once we get them where they are and we touch their hearts and let them know that we're genuine and we're here for them, then that kind of opens them up a little bit. And I think that's the case with her, like many of the kids in the program.
Thank you. So Diane, let me turn to you on this. So Diane is a therapist here in town. She does both individual and family therapy, has a lot of a year's experience working with early adolescents, especially early adolescents who have suffered, I'd say, extreme trauma, complex trauma. She's also the program coordinator with the Neurosequential Network, which is a really interesting organization that focuses on stages of brain development in youths and the impact that short-circuiting that with trauma or stress can have really on the rest of their lives. We're working with children who are in middle school, and that's its own challenge. New school, new faces, that stage of life where they're trying to figure out who they are, who everyone around them is. And then you layer on top of it the poverty we see in our students, the stress and the trauma and sometimes the stigma that comes with having a family members in prison. And they're trying to deal with that really toxic gumbo at the same time. I mean, what's going on with them, and how do we impact that?
Well, Connor and Brandi both brought up some really important points, which is that is a time in life when kids are trying to figure out who they are outside of the family in relation to other people, because human beings are social. We have to have relationships. We have to have them. The healthiest people are interdependent, not independent. So relationships are everything. And it's important to be able to develop and form and maintain them. Healthier ones are certainly better. I think we all know that kids, humans, if you can't develop healthy relationships, you'll develop unhealthy ones, but you don't want to be by yourself. So the other thing that I'm I'm a perpetual student. I'll be learning until my brain stops working, but I'm redefining in my head, just by observation and practice, self-esteem and where it comes from and how it develops. And people need to know that they are or have something that contributes to the betterment of their group. So they have a skill, they have a talent, they have a personality, something that they can contribute to their group that makes it better. When you come from a background where maybe you've been told you've got nothing, or culture has told you because of the situation of your family, you have nothing, you're more of a leech than an asset, that shapes how you see yourself, that shapes how you present yourself, that shapes how you expect other people to treat you, and that also shapes how other people treat you. Because we're social, we have what are known as mirror neurons, so that helps us kind of pick up what other people are thinking and feeling, and then we respond to that often before it even gets up to the higher parts of the brain where you're thinking about it, you're more feeling it. So I think a huge part of the success of this program can be attributed to Brandi and her presence, because she's right. When you show up and you accept people exactly where they are, exactly how they are, there's nothing they need to do or prove to demonstrate that they're wanted here and that their contribution is valuable to the other members of this group. That feels good. That may be the first time these kids have heard this. And so they're going to want to help each other. And in so doing, you wind up helping yourself. You help the program grow, you support one another, you find a community. All of those things are really important at every stage, but particularly this one. So that's really important. These kids tend to, not, of course, I don't know every single one, but they tend to come from a background that is just permeated with stress. And we all, look, our brains are pre-wired to deal with stress, and stress is not always bad. I hate the term toxic stress because it's not always toxic. You need stress. In fact, you need stress in order to grow. So stronger bones require some weight, and that's stressor. So stress isn't necessarily bad. It's when it is unpredictable, severe, and uncontrolled. Then you don't wind up resilient. You wind up vulnerable. Stressors. I'm so glad somebody mentioned barking dogs. There's mine. But when your stress is uncontrolled, severe, and not predictable, that makes you vulnerable. Children are not born, what's the word like? They're not born resilient. You're made resilient by your stress. And that starts in your family, because your caregivers and your parents are supposed to help you learn how to regulate, learn how to tolerate your big feelings until they pass, learn how to celebrate the good feelings as long as you have them, and celebrate you. And they're teaching you how to be a grown-up. If they're not there to teach you, you're kind of on your own. Or what they're showing you is how to be an unsuccessful grown-up, you're more likely to be an unsuccessful grown-up.
Cory Cloud has joined us now. He had a conflict first. Let me turn to Cory. So Sergeant Cory Cloud is a 12-year veteran of HPD. He is in the Patrol Region 2 Command, which means he works a lot, Special Projects Sergeant, he works a lot on community issues. Cory went to middle school in the Aldine district, a few miles from where we're currently offering classes at Hoffman. And he faced a lot of the same challenges that our students face when he was a kid. And so despite that, he's earned a master's in criminal justice. I think you said you're getting into law school now, Cory. And I found in talking to him, he's challenged his experiences into a passion for, and these are his words, not only building relationships in the community, but cementing them. From our conversations, I have the feeling that one thing that drives your work in the community is what you saw around you as a kid and what you saw as the alternatives. Could you talk about that a little?
As Ken stated, I went to Stovall Middle School, wound up graduated from Aldine High School, so I'm very familiar with Hoffman and some of the other Aldine schools in the Nimitz area, etc. outward to be social, and you're faced with so much peer pressure and so much crime, and the pressure to fit in and belong to relationships that aren't the best. But then what's also even more troubling is that when you go home in your inner environment, and you have, in my case, drugs, family violence from your parents, and all these different things that you're faced with within your house. So you don't have solitude from the internal standpoint within your home, nor the outside, when you're trying to find ways in some of these tough environments to fit in. And it can be very stressful. And I didn't have a program like this to turn to, where I could speak with people about, where I can really just sort of let loose with some of the problems. And I think a lot of times just having someone to talk to can really stop crimes. And I'm going to speak from that standpoint, crimes from really being committed. As you all know, our homicide rates are flying through the roof. We have aggravated assaults from all age ranges, from middle school, high school included. And part of that is there's no constructive environment to fit in. And there's a lack of mentoring that needs to be built in the elementary, middle school, where when you hit high school, we're entering that more cementing phase, as I was speaking about, or as Ken spoke about earlier on my behalf. Building is one thing, and we can build until we're blue in the face, but we have to get to a point where we're cementing. So the elementary school and the middle school are just extremely vital when we talk about trying to mentor and to make sure that this program can be a success from all angles, of having someone to talk to, being able to confide, and then also having our juveniles out of the justice system. I'll just be very, very frank about it. It's too many juveniles that are in the justice system, and I believe that if we have more active mentoring and more resources, I think that those crimes get suppressed, if not stopped, the majority of them. And so to me, that's what brings value to this program. I've been faced with some of the same things. I've had to visit my mom in jail. It's nothing fun about visiting a parent behind jail. I can't even tell. First of all, you're confused as all get out because you've never been there before. So again, I'm speaking firsthand because I've had to visit parents in jail, and you're really confused. You don't really know what this place is. You see this long line of people, and it's really a feeling of confusion, nervousness, and why are you here and when you're getting out. And so I know that some of those kids are faced with that, and then they channel their frustration and their anger into violence sometimes, and that's a pathway to the justice system. And I want the youth to be able to meet me not in handcuffs, but meet me with open arms, as far as shaking hands, talking, cracking jokes, and building relationships. So that's one of the reasons why I came along and I took Ken's invite to be on the panel and to also be an active member in the program.
And we appreciate that. I'm going to throw out the questions I was going to ask right now and just say, can I go off script? And so Brandi and Cory, you share a lot of the same experiences as children, and you share experiences that our students share. Can you just talk to each other? I mean, what impact did that have on you when you were a middle school student, and how does that relate to what we need to be doing for our students?
So for me, it was very exhausting, but I knew the first chance I got, I was gonna get out of there. And that's when I told you that I found a Navy recruiter as soon as I hit high school, and I got on with that. And the minute I graduated, I didn't stick around for the summertime. I didn't wait around to talk to friends. I got on the first thing smoking the Great Lakes, Illinois. Gone. So for me, while it was hard, you had to make do with the friends that you have. So I have friends who are previous gang members and people like that, because that's what you're surrounded with. And when you're social, you can't just not talk to anybody. You gotta talk to the people that's around you.
Brandi?
I think for me, the impact was, I just knew that it had to be something better.
Mm-hmm.
That like, this is not normal. This is not
Right.
typical. But the thing is, even though, my dad was in and out of my life all of my adolescence, and then one day, 7th grade, I'm at lunch and he shows up and he says, "Hey, here's $100. Love you. I'm going to Atlanta." First off, I didn't even know you were out of jail. And then you show up at my lunchtime and say hi and goodbye. And I didn't see him for 8 years. But if I didn't have people that, not necessarily organizations, but I had people that cared enough about me to expose me to different things, to let me know what opportunities were out there. And fortunately, just right now, those same types, I don't see any organization like COCI, like gyms, that's out there and willing to invest their time, willing to say, "You know what? I went through this," or "This is what you can do." You don't have to be a victim of your circumstance. You don't have to do the same thing that your parents did. If I didn't have people that did that for me, my life would have been completely different. So,
Do you want to talk about what happened in class today, Brandi?
so today, we went to Key and we only have 30 minutes with them. But I wanted to start playing the video of Miss USA. And it was a video in particular, an interview, I mean, where she is talking about her childhood and what she experienced, and, how she was able to overcome it, being at home. Dad had been incarcerated. Mom worked all the time. So that left her to be like the parent. And so she had to, all of a sudden she was thrusted into the situation, but she didn't have time to really kind of worry about herself, because she had to be an example for her siblings and all of that. And so as she was talking, and I just kind of sit back and I looked at the kids and I kind of watched them as they watched the video and whatnot. And when it was done, I say, "So guys, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about her?" And so one of the scholars, who is very He's very talkative and very open. But he said, so her dad was in jail when she was a child. I was like, yeah. She said, her dad was there and, she had to do all the things. He said, and she made it to be Miss USA. I said, yep. And she's, I think, in the running for Miss Universe. And so he said, if she can overcome what I'm in now, if she went through that and what I'm going through now, that means I can be anything. For me, that was so glad I had on a mask, because I would have lost every little piece of me that I had, because it's just like when you're teaching a child something and you're struggling for them to get it, but then they see that light and the light bulb just goes off and it's like, oh, you can hear the angels singing. But that's, it means so much when you know that what you're doing, they see it, they understand it, they get it, and they want it. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to get all three of you to react to something. And I saw that Sophie Kerr was on the call tonight. Sophie is a PhD student, I believe, at U of H. And the professor that she works under is Dr. Carla Phillips. A year plus ago, when I first was starting to talk to people about this middle school concept and whether there was some need there, I talked to Carla, and she specializes in attachment disorder, so trust issues that start very early. But she has a special interest in this early adolescent period. And I said, all the research money is flowing to early childhood right now. Why are you focused on this group here? And she said, because this is the last chance we have to fix what was broken in terms of their brain development. Can I get the three of you to just react to that?
Like middle school is so, it's a major time of uncertainty, I think, for kids, because not only are they just trying to figure out themselves and transitioning, they're really just trying to, it's like somebody kind of popped a little bubble that they've been in through all of elementary school. It's like now you're starting to understand the harsh realities of life, and doing that and trying to just wake up every day and keep going, and I got a pimple here, or my body is changing, or why doesn't she like me, or why doesn't he like me, or whatever. It's a lot. And so during that formative time, they're kind of shaped and molded into their self-esteem is being either built or diminished, depending on the outside factors and whatnot that they have. By the time they get to high school, really and sure, I don't want to say it's too late, but it's harder. It's much harder to kind of bring them back to where they can understand that, hey, I can do this, I can do that. So when I hear that, I can understand it and agree with it, that I'm not going to say it's too late, but at this time, it's like it's the last chance that we get, just as the little bubble is popped and they are beginning to lose what some would call innocence. Yeah, it's probably close to the end of the days.
Yeah, I want to agree with Brandi. I don't think it's too late, but it's the last time it will be relatively easy. It'll get a lot harder later, because you're right. That little cocoon has popped, and now it's like a second birth in a sense. The fetus is in the womb, and it comes on all these bright lights, and everything's very, very different. You throw in some hormones with these kids, and they're picking up our social programming in a whole new way. It's affecting them differently. They are at a stage of development where they're figuring out who they are outside of the house, having already gotten a less than optimal message inside the house, and we're building on that. but because they're trying on something new right now, I mean, these are the kids that they're goth one week and they're hipsters the next week, and they're, you know, dating. When they date, long-term relationships last a week and a half. I mean, you know, they are so relatively volatile. The amygdala, which is part of your stress response system that is scanning the environment for threat, is growing at this time, just like it does when you're a baby, like, you know, terrible twos. Now we've got terrible 13-year-olds, but they're big enough to really hurt you when they have their tantrums. So this is a stage in life that's pretty unstable to begin with, because I think we've been talking a lot about that. And because it's in a transition phase anyway, it's a little easier to work with. Once things get solidified, it's very similar to building a house. You know, when you start early, it's much easier than waiting till it's already built and then trying to undo it, redo it, override it, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, this is a good time to work with these kids. Obviously, infancy is better, but we missed it. We missed it. So this is our next best chance. And after this, it gets a lot harder, a lot harder.
Cory, from your perspective, I'm thinking that you've arrested some 30-year-olds who had the emotional level of a 12-year-old that got stuck.
I have had the unfortunate sadness of seeing a lot of those kids become criminals, meaning that they're arrested at 14, 15, and when they're 17, 18, we're arresting them and they're a part of a serial robbery crew or hijacking crew. And a lot of it to me was missed with just, you know, lack of mentoring. And it goes back to what I think that we all agree on, is that once they get 15, 16, it's becoming harder. That's why I was saying we have to cement the relationships, you know, early. Because if you're trying to build a relationship with the high school kid, no, it's not impossible. But like we've all agreed, it is very, very hard. Their opinions are already formed and a lot of things are already going on already, and you pretty much missed the gravy train. And so to me, that's why this is so important.
Thank you. So, you know, what we're doing at Key and Hoffman are demonstration projects. Brandi came in. She's got to be the one to walk and chew gum at the same time. She's got to be the one that teaches the class, but then is able to watch herself teach it and figure out how we modify the lesson plans, how we train the next people, how we grow. And that's the quality system part that we're trying to develop so that we can expand consistently and effectively no matter where we go, and quickly. You know, what are the skill sets that we need? But in the near term, so Brandi, we've talked a lot about expansion. What kind of give people an idea of the direction?
We are talking and discussing, you know, summer program opportunities and just trying to see where those opportunities are available. Because the school districts are so uncertain about the modality, whether it will be virtual or face-to-face over for summer school and whatnot. That's what we're kind of in limbo with about right now. We're also talking about kind of continuing on and how to implement the program beginning in August, in the fall, when students come back from the summer. Short term, where we are really looking at where we are right now, how we can build on where we are right now and extend it throughout the summer, and then beginning in the fall, being available in you know, a couple more schools, so we can reach more kids.
Learning loss is a real thing. Children are falling further behind. But I think just as important is they are losing the thread of why they need educations and why they need to interact with other people. They've become discouraged, they're turning off. At Hoffman, they said as they've returned to live classes, they're asking kids, so how did you learn before you got here? And the kids are getting vague because they were not doing anything. And so we hadn't planned on starting a summer program this year. We're just beginning these programs, but the need is so great to engage kids that we've kind of thrown the original plans out the window, and we're trying to make this happen this summer.